So, herpes. We've all heard of it. Some of us may have it. But our group, we are here to help with Helpies. We are Group 7. I'm Taylor. And we are pitching novel delivery methods for herpes antiviral drugs. So, let's start. So first, I want to make it very clear that herpes viruses don't only include herpes simplex virus 1 and herpes simplex virus 2, but also varicella zoster virus, which is the causative agent of chickenpox and shingles. Worldwide, almost 100% of the population has one herpes virus or another. Roughly 80% of human beings have herpes simplex virus, either oral or genital. And yeah, it's very prevalent. It's endemic. There's a lot of asymptomatic cases, but for those that aren't asymptomatic, it can be painful, it can be embarrassing, it can be uncomfortable. And in patients with HIV, it can be deadly and extremely debilitating. So it's a really important virus. And yeah, so current methods of treatment is acyclovir and drugs that are similar to that. It's an antiviral, and it specifically inhibits herpes virus DNA synthesis. And so it mimics guanosine, which is a nucleotide. And so when it's incorporated into the growing DNA strand of the herpes virus as it's replicating, it terminates the DNA synthesis because more bases cannot be added on after it. And so how this works is that acyclovir and ATP together are phosphated by thymidine kinase, which is then processed by human enzymes to make acyclovir triphosphate. And then this is taken by the herpes simplex virus DNA polymerase, which is then incorporated into viral DNA. And then the DNA synthesis is inhibited. And you can see all of this in the diagram on the right-hand side of the screen. And so currently there's lots of different methods to treat herpes with acyclovir. So oral is one way, but this has poor bioavailability and the weakest effects on symptoms and very small impacts on viral replication. There's topical, which has poor absorption into the skin, and rapid clearance of the ointment requires frequent applications. There's intravenous treatment, but this can only be delivered by a doctor in a hospital setting, and the dosage is delivered over at least 2 hours every 2 to 4 hours. And this is for really extreme cases. And then there's buccal treatment, which is on the inside of your mouth, sort of like on the inside of your cheek. And the antiviral must be absorbed through the buccal mucosa for at least 6 hours. And this only really treats oral herpes. So the current methods are expensive, they are time consuming, they are inconvenient, and overall inefficient. So we decided that we need novel delivery methods to treat this virus.
Hi, this is Hannah, and I'm going to walk you through our first improvement in acyclovir delivery, a new and improved topical ointment. So this technique takes advantage of the composition of HDL particles, which are a cholesterol efflux particle that's already found in blood. These particles can be easily synthesized with hydrophobic chemicals inside, like acyclovir. These synthetic particles are 5 to 18 nanometers in size, which is the exact size that's needed to diffuse between the tight junctions of the skin. So this particle-based method is going to improve bioavailability by allowing the drug to penetrate deeper into the tissue than current polyethylene glycol-based ointments. Our second technique for improving acyclovir delivery is to employ the mucojet technology for buccal delivery of acyclovir. This is a capsule that is designed to be placed under the tongue, and it projects the drug through the dermal layers of the mucosa. This would yield a high efficiency of delivery, and it's fast and pain-free. Also, this method allows for at-home administration and would be an effective replacement for ingested or intravenous acyclovir delivery. So these products have different target markets, the main difference being the severity of the symptoms, but also the age of the patient. So we think that the topical cream would be more appropriate for mild symptoms that a traditional ointment would have been used for. But this also would be a valuable treatment option for children since they may not be able to use a Mucojet capsule without swallowing. The Mucojet capsules would be more for severe infections and would allow for outpatient treatment. And also, it's a treatment option for resource-poor areas where sterile intravenous delivery is not feasible. So, as far as regulatory considerations go, because we aren't developing a new pharmaceutical, both of our platforms will be regulated as reformulated drug products and products intended for administration by an alternate route by the FDA. So the transdermal topical deliveries, which would be our cream, that is considered a combination product, and so it's regulated under 21 CFR Part 820.30, which essentially requires extensive record keeping and good manufacturing processes for production, but also just making sure that the chemical doesn't interfere with the delivery system, which would be the HDL particle. And then for the Mucojet, that delivery method must be completely reassessed by the FDA, and additionally, we need to do studies to make sure that there aren't any massive risks associated with accidental swallowing.
Hello, I'm Casey. I'm just interrupting Anna here for a second to give you a breakdown of the FDA process. So we're developing 2 new methods which require preclinical and clinical trials to determine the viability and efficacy of the drug, and specifically these delivery methods. Preclinical trials are used to determine cellular uptake of your specific drug through our new 2 delivery methods, and it allows for mouse models to view the specific distribution of our drug and the absorption of it through a more complex being than just a cell. Pharmacokinetics are typically defined as absorption, distribution, metabolism, and elimination or excretion. So we have to figure out what the absorption and the distribution are of our drugs using these 2 new methods. This is going to be a bit of research that is a bit easier to do because the other methods are developed, so we can figure out what a baseline is and figure out what the bioavailability of our drugs are. After that, we have to do clinical trials where we figure out phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 of the FDA clinical trial process, where we have to figure out what the safety is of our drug and figure out what the efficacy is of our drug and figure out how well and effective it is in a larger sample size. Once we do that, the drug can be delivered to market as being determined safe for this delivery method. And then we could do phase 4 trials, which essentially we figure out how safe a drug is over a longer amount of time. But that should be not more on ours, but we can go off to the safety of this drug that's been used before, acyclovir.
Hi, I'm Anna Naranjo. This is our proposed 7-year plan to get these delivery treatments for the herpes simplex virus on the market. The first 2 years will be dedicated to research and development. During this time, we'll be conducting our preclinical trials. We hope to have this completed by the end of the 2nd year, but have added some buffer time if any issues arise. Securing funding will be a continuous process. We will be applying for grants and securing investors as clinical trials are expensive. However, once we have enough funding, we will conduct the clinical trials per the FDA process. We hope to complete this in 3.5 years. After FDA approval, we can proceed with the manufacture, marketing, and distribution of these delivery treatments. Additionally, we hope to expand the HDL topical cream and Mucojet delivery systems to use with other medications or to treat different illnesses, which will require continued funding for research and development.
Hi, it's Casey again. I'm just here to go through the patent considerations. So when we looked up HDL, acyclovir, and antiviral, there was nothing there to figure out the HDL delivery of an antiviral, and specifically there wasn't anything for acyclovir. The closest thing there was a general patent for nucleotide delivery. If you saw in the first few slides that acyclovir is relatively similar to guanosine, so it will be able to have some kind of analogousness to the nucleotide delivery, but it's not necessarily this nucleotide, so it's relatively unique. There have been 0 patents for mucojet and acyclovir, which allows for us to expand where there hasn't been research before for these two. There's been no competition for acyclovir with these specific delivery methods. The patent for acyclovir has expired, so it's able to be made generic. The process for making this is relatively straightforward, and it can be made on a large-scale batch, which allows for it to be made on scales that are readily deliverable to market. All of this has been done using lens.org, so we're able to figure out what the exact patent considerations are and to know what the freedom to operate is for this delivery method. Finally, I'm going to be just talking about the One Health aspect of this. So in a lot of places where people don't have access to drugs, or places where there's not a relatively able, or children who are not easily able to give injections or take pills, a topical ointment is going to be potentially really good specifically for these children. And then the mucojet is going to be specifically very good for places where an injection is significantly harder and there's not able to have the sterile environment because it's all encapsulated into one, essentially, tablet. And as you can see by our nice diagram here, essentially human health is part of the world health, and if we're able to help other underrepresented areas, they'll be able to have medicine and take care of what's needed to be going around in the environment around them. Additionally, this could be able to be used for veterinary implications because if acyclovir is able to be used in pets, this is an antiviral method that's easier to apply to animals that don't like to take pills. Both of these delivery methods should be able to incorporate all kinds of small molecules, so it's not just limited to this antiviral, but this is the place that we started because there is a pressing need for topical antiviral delivery. And if we're able to do all of this in an environmentally safe manner, we'll be able to help reduce the impact of this medical industry on environment. We are Helpies, and I would like to take any questions if there are any.